If y'all haven't been watching our recaps of The Polygamist, then you've been missing out. Links in description. This is part 3, but basically, what had happened was, a rich man named Jonasi has been married to Joyce and has 3 children with her. A daughter named Empume, a son named Menzi, and their newborn baby. He recently been having an affair with his big back brother's ex, Matipa, and Jonasi and her ended up having twins. To fix her image, Joyce comes up with the idea to have Matipa become Jonasi's second wife. It's a common thing in their culture. However, unbeknownst to both of his wives, he's actually been sleeping with Essie and is a father to Sarah. All this time, his big back brother Magesh has been pretending to be Sarah's father and Essie's husband. I know, super messy. In the last episode, Sarah couldn't handle being the hidden daughter anymore and got her ultimate revenge by bonging Empume's boyfriend named Bongs. Essie tries to ground her, but Sarah accidentally pushed her down the stairs and Essie was rushed to the hospital. Tired of being the hidden daughter, Sarah spilled the beans to Joyce, so now Joyce knows that Jonasi has been breaking Essie's back this entire time. Let's continue. It's already too late by the time Majesh gets to the hospital. Sarah has already told Joyce everything, and Joyce feels betrayed by her supposed brother-in-law. She can't help but think about all the times Essie and Jonasi were lying to her in the past. All that time, Jonasi was eating Essie's cakes. Joyce confronts Essie, but Essie doesn't feel any guilt at all. She thinks Joyce is in no position to complain when she and Sarah were the ones hiding all this time and had to live in the not-so-nice house. Now that the truth is out, both Matipa and Joyce are dumbfounded. Matipa feels like a fool because it turns out that she's the third wife. Joyce sympathizes with her and they bond over their hatred for Jonasi over a bottle of wine. I always thought sister wives was a white people thing. Now that she no longer has to hide, Sarah wants to spend more time with her father. When she goes to the office, even the assistant is dumbfounded that Sarah's dad is Jonasi. Sarah puts up a picture of them on his office table, but Jonasi is quite busy, so he promises to take Sarah to lunch when he finds the time. Meanwhile, Bongs wants to get back with Empume, but she doesn't want him anymore since Sarah was using his eggplant like a bong. Menzi defends his sister and pushes Bongs out of the house while Lindani tries to make a world star video. Menzi has always had a crush on Lindani, so this was a great way to impress her. When Jonasi returns home, Joyce asks him straight if he's hiding any more women. Jonasi apologizes to her, but Joyce has already reached her limit. Joyce knows that a lot of women watch her and that she'll set a bad example if she continues to tolerate Jonasi. So she breaks the deal with Ivory Oasis and stops being its ambassador. Later, Empume writes a letter to her father and reads it to him. She confesses how his infidelity has been affecting her, but Jonasi turns up the TV's volume to drown out Empume's voice. Then he tells her he'll read the letter himself. The blatant disrespect is crazy. Meanwhile, Sarah is waiting for her father at a restaurant. It's the day of their scheduled lunch date. She waits for hours, but Jonasi doesn't show up. Menzi shows Freedom the post Lindani made about him, calling him a real man. Freedom thinks Menzi can do better, so he takes him to a club to have fun. But the Beauty and Black dance club is not Menzi's thing, so he excuses himself to call Lindani. To his surprise, he finds Lindani on her knees, pleasuring his own father Jonasi. Y'all, I can't. RuPaul really in his man-whore era. Let's go back to how the two started this mess. Lindani first caught Jonasi's attention at Menzi's party. After seeing her dance, Jonasi knew he had to have her. So that night, he tried getting close to Lindani by letting her have some expensive wine. He flirted and talked dirty to her, and Lindani enjoyed his company. A few days later, he asked to take her out. Lindani had always dreamed of living a fancy life, so she was more than happy to say yes. Not only did Jonasi buy her a dress, but he also rented out a restaurant for just the two of them. This nasty man flirts by asking her if she knows what's going to burst and puts her fingers in his mouth, then in between his thighs. He's so gross. Empume noticed that Lindani was always on her phone and found out that she was dating an older man. But Empume was unaware that it was her own father. Lindani was dating X at that time, but she was disappointed that he didn't have any big dreams. Jonasi got more brazen, grabbing her butt, but Lindani was still keeping him on edge, so he invited her to join him on a business trip to Dunbar. Lindani agreed and was looking forward to the trip. Empume was worried that Lindani's older boyfriend was taking advantage of her, but Lindani refused to heed the warnings. Jonasi took her to their guest house in Dunbar and let her experience their luxurious lifestyle. It was all she ever wanted. So she ignored all calls from X. When Jonasi returned from his business meeting, he gave Lindani some underwear. Wanting to please him, Lindani obliged and finally gave in. Girl, that's the crypt keeper. When she returned from the trip, she bragged to Mpume how good in bed her boyfriend was. Suddenly, X grabbed Lindani's phone and demanded an explanation. But Lindani broke her own phone just so she wouldn't get caught. Sometime later, she found out that she was pregnant. Double it and give it to Matipa. She tried convincing X that he was the father, but he was sure that it wasn't his. So he broke up with Lindani. When Jonasi learned about the pregnancy, he told Lindani not to worry. He promised to get a nanny to look after the baby so Lindani could go back to school. Feeling a bit better, Lindani took Jonasi to a club to entertain him. That's when Menzi caught them in the act. Menzi suffered a panic attack afterward. One day, Lindani feels an excruciating pain, and she panics even more when she sees blood between her legs. Jonasi has just left to visit Matipa. He gives her a necklace as a peace offering, but Matipa still doesn't forgive him. She's still mad after finding out that she's the third wife. Jonasi doesn't care and says the only sin he's committed is love, and still he wants to get laid, but Matipa gives him lotion to use on himself instead. Lindani tries calling Jonasi but fails to reach him, so she heads to the hospital and contacts Mpume instead. Joyce also shows up to check on Lindani because she thinks of her as her own daughter. She's disturbed when she learns that Lindani is dating an older man and calls the man a pervert. If she only knew the truth. Meanwhile, Menzi throws a fit when he sees his father at the office. Later, Jonasi sees all of Lindani's messages. He calls her and finds out that she has lost the baby, so he promises to pay her a visit as soon as possible. Sarah couldn't have picked a worse time to confront her father. He missed their lunch date, and now she discovers that he removed their family photo as well. Jonasi explodes in anger and orders Sarah to stop acting out. Meanwhile, Matipa is devastated when the doctor says she has gonorrhea. He says treatment is possible as long as Matipa continues the medication, but he encourages Matipa to tell her husband to get checked as well. Seeing how sad Sarah is, Freedom puts all the blame on his mother, Essie. He says they are miserable because Essie lets Jonasi treat them like trash. With everyone gone on vacation because they tired of Jonasi, Jonasi takes Lindani to his family home. Mpume learns that Lindani has already been discharged. They're about to learn about Lindani's other discharge too. So Mpume tells Menzi about Lindani's miscarriage. Menzi suffers another panic attack, prompting Joyce to end their vacation and just return home. Joyce's world falls apart when she sees Jonasi giving Lindani a bath. Everything starts to make sense to Joyce, and she's furious because Lindani is like a daughter to them. Jonasi tries to explain, but Joyce snaps. Y'all! She starts to beat Lindani with a belt like she's a child. She also does the same thing with Jonasi. Mpume starts to realize what's going on. When Matipa arrives, she quickly realizes what's happening too. So she asks Jonasi if Lindani has gonorrhea. As soon as Matipa leaves, Jonasi and Joyce continue to fight. Menzi goes against his father for the first time, but Jonasi just beats him with a belt. Suddenly, they hear a commotion outside. To their surprise, Lindani's mother has brought police officers. She has seen the bruises on Lindani's back and is determined to file a case against Joyce. So Joyce reveals the affair and insists she's not one to blame. Upon hearing it, Lindani's mother accuses Jonasi of taking advantage of her daughter and promises to make him pay, but the cops take Joyce away. Magesh confronts Jonasi the next day and warns him about the consequences of sleeping with a child. But Jonasi is not even a bit bothered. Even when Matipa faces him and calls him out, he just calls security on her. Joyce quickly finds a way to be released from jail. Afterwards, she goes to the hospital for a checkup. Unfortunately, the doctor says she tested positive for gonorrhea. He explains that both Joyce and Jonasi should take the medication. He should be named Jonasi Gomora. Sarah tries comforting Mpume, but Mpume wants nothing to do with Sarah's trifling ahs, so Sarah calls her uncle instead. Magesh is more than happy to spend some time with Sarah. He comforts her as she cries and lets out her frustrations. Jonasi is furious when he sees their family pictures have been cut out. Mpume admits that she did it because she hates her father. Even Menzi wants him out of the house, but Jonasi refuses to leave. Joyce feels nothing for him anymore and wants him to move out, but Jonasi swears the only way to get rid of him is when he's finally dead. I wonder, how is his company so successful when he's always busy getting his freak on? Jonasi's tricks have finally brought Joyce and Matipa closer. Both women have realized that Jonasi will never be content, and now they have to get treatment for their STI. So one night, Joyce poisons his food to finally be rid of him. Unaware, Jonasi finishes everything on his plate. Mpume can't stay longer with her father in the same house, so she leaves early for college. Joyce promises she'll fix everything and reminds Mpume how deeply she loves her. That night, Joyce, Menzi, and Nkazi dance to some music while Jonasi is suffering downstairs. The poison has already taken effect on his body. They rush Jonasi to the hospital, and unfortunately, he's okay. Joyce pretends that Jonasi tried to kill himself. When Jonasi wakes up, the doctor tells him that he suffered from a heart attack. It turns out that Joyce bribed the doctor to keep the results a secret. Meanwhile, Sarah gets even more attached to Magesh and wishes that he were her real father. Unfortunately, Essie also gets infected with gonorrhea. Determined to leave Jonasi, Matipa starts to apply for a new job. But getting hired proves to be difficult because her only experience in the administration field is splaying her legs. Now that everyone knows Magesh is not married, he starts to see another woman. Essie is happy for him, but Sarah is not. She thinks of Magesh as a real father and doesn't want any competition for his affection. Matipa is worried about what will happen next, so she asks for a money transfer from her shared bank account with Jonasi to a separate individual account. She pressures the bank staff to rush the transfer, even though protocol says Jonasi has to be notified first. Menzi has changed dramatically after he caught Lindani with his father. He has the courage to yell at his father now and confronts Lindani, calls her names, and asks her how much Jonasi was paying her. He aggressively begs to be with her, but she refuses. After that, he heads to the club to get wasted. Now at home, Jonasi refuses to take his meds. He's also angry that Joyce wasn't at home to look after him. He reminds her that everything she has is bought using his money. So Joyce claps back and tells Jonasi that it was her father who trained him and gave him a chance. On top of that, she owns half of the company and everything under his name. After the fight, Jonasi heads to Matipa's house and tries to sleep with her. Though Matipa is mad at him, Jonasi still forces himself on her. Matipa hits him, so he hits her back. No matter how much she tries, Jonasi is way stronger. He beats her up and even uses the belt on her. He has found out about the money transfer and is determined to make Matipa pay for what she did. Y'all, there's only one more part to this messy series. I pray there isn't a fifth girl that this man is terrorizing. Should we cover the ending?
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. So, if you like to watch more foolishness, you can click here or here.